I am a mermaid, and humans are pathetically naive. For centuries, they have painted my kind with romantic brushstrokes, weaving tragic, tear-soaked ballads about forbidden love between the ocean and the land. They sing of innocent daughters of the sea, willing to sacrifice their voices and their homes just to walk beside a handsome prince. Lying on this desolate stretch of beach tonight, my fingers digging desperately into the wet, freezing sand, I find their fairy tales utterly laughable. They have no idea. They do not comprehend the brutal reality of the deep, nor do they understand the nature of the creatures that dwell within the crushing blackness. When my claws retract beneath soft, pale skin, and these lips learn to feign a shy, helpless smile, it is not a prince I am seeking. I am looking for dinner. A jagged gasp escapes my throat as the coastal air floods my lungs for the first time. It is a dry, burning sensation, like inhaling shattered glass. Below me, the ocean roars, an endless, churning void that has nurtured me since I was a hatchling. In the abyss, I am a god. I am weightless, swift as a torpedo, a silent shadow that brings sudden death in the dark. But here, on the shore, the gravity of the earth is a merciless anvil. It crushes my chest, pinning me to the jagged rocks and coarse sand with an invisible, suffocating weight. But I cannot turn back. The gnawing, hollow ache in my gut refuses to let me retreat. The fish in the shallows are no longer enough. Their cold, watery blood does nothing to satiate the ancient, primal hunger tearing at my insides. I crave something warmer, something rich with iron and fear. I crave the sweet, pulsating meat that walks on two legs. I close my eyes, biting down on my own lip as the metamorphosis begins. There is no sparkling magic here, no ethereal glow or swirling bubbles to mask the horror of biology rewriting itself. It is a violent, excruciating trauma. A sickening crack echoes over the sound of the crashing waves. My spine arches in involuntary agony as the thick, muscular length of my iridescent tail begins to fracture. The beautiful, armored scales, strong enough to deflect the bite of a great white shark, begin to peel backward, tearing away from the flesh underneath. I muffle a feral shriek, my vocal cords vibrating with a frequency that makes the sand around me tremble. The pain is blinding. Beneath the flaying skin, cartilage snaps and dissolves. Thick, powerful tailbones splinter and fuse, forcefully dividing my lower half straight up to the pelvis. I feel the hot, sticky rush of my own blood soaking into the sand as new muscles weave themselves together, stretching and snapping into place over freshly forged femurs and kneecaps. For what feels like hours, I am nothing but a writhing, bleeding mass of shifting anatomy. My fins shrivel, peeling off like dead skin, leaving behind 10 fragile, bony appendages that humans call toes. When the agonizing symphony of snapping bones finally ceases, I lie there, panting, shivering violently in the biting night wind. I look down at my lower half. 2 long, pale legs rest on the blood-stained sand. They look so weak, so absurdly fragile. A single bite from a predator could snap them in half. Yet, to the oblivious cattle of the land, they will look soft, alluring, and perfectly human. Slowly, awkwardly, I push myself up. My newly formed joints pop and protest. The simple act of standing is a battle against the crushing gravity. But the scent of wood smoke and stale ale drifting down from the cliffside town acts as a tether, pulling me forward. Before I can step into their world, the facade must be perfected. I close my eyes and focus on my jaw. With a sickening crunch, the 3 rows of serrated, shark-like teeth that line my gums unlock. I swallow the metallic taste of blood as the jagged fangs slide back, retracting deep into my jawbone, replaced by a single row of dull, flat, pearly white teeth. My jaw softens, losing its predatory jut, molding into the delicate curve of a lost maiden. Next is the voice. Down in the trenches, my scream can rupture the internal organs of a whale. It is a weapon of sonar and destruction. I focus on the muscles of my throat, tightening the vocal cords, suppressing the ultrasonic resonance. I let out a test breath. Ah. The sound that escapes is pathetic. It is weak, breathy, and trembling, the exact pitch of a frightened girl. It is repulsive. It is perfect. Dragging my unfamiliar, heavy legs through the freezing shallows, I make my way toward a wooden dock protruding from the edge of the town. A small, dilapidated fisherman's shack sits near the pier. A clothesline is strung between 2 wooden posts, a few ragged garments flapping wildly in the salty wind. I limp toward it, every step sending spikes of residual pain up my spine. My clawed fingers, which I hastily force to retract into smooth, manicured nails, snatch a coarse, oversized linen shirt and a frayed woolen shawl from the line. The fabric is rough and irritating against my hypersensitive, newly formed skin, but it covers my nakedness. It hides the fading scars of my transformation. I pull the oversized shirt over my head and wrap the thick shawl around my shivering shoulders. I let my long, damp hair fall wildly around my face, deliberately framing my large, wide eyes. I look like a shipwreck survivor, a fragile, disoriented beauty left at the mercy of the unforgiving sea. I turn my gaze toward the flickering yellow lanterns of the coastal town, hidden beneath a thick blanket of sea fog. The scent of unwashed men, cheap rum, and warm, beating hearts is intoxicating. I take a deep, labored breath of the terrestrial air, letting a timid, terrified expression fall perfectly into place on my face. The agonizing transformation is complete. Now, it is time to hunt. The fog rolling off the sea is a thick, suffocating shroud. To the humans, it is a nuisance, a blinding gray wall that hides the jagged rocks of the shoreline. But to me, it is a veil. It clings to my damp skin and dampens the sounds of the coastal town, turning the world into a muted, spectral hunting ground. Every step I take away from the shore is a lesson in agony. The cobblestone streets of the harbor are brutally unforgiving beneath my bare, tender soles. My new joints ache with a stiff, unnatural tension, and my knees buckle with sickening frequency. I sway and stumble, my center of gravity completely foreign to me. At first, this infuriates me. I, who can outswim the fastest oceanic currents, reduced to a lumbering, uncoordinated newborn. But as I catch my reflection in the murky water of a rain puddle, I realize something profound. This wretched, agonizing clumsiness is my greatest asset. When I trip over a loose stone and fall against a damp brick wall, I do not look like a monster. I look like a victim. I am shivering uncontrollably in the biting chill of the night, wearing stolen, oversized clothes that hang off my slender frame. My long hair is matted with sea salt, and my skin is porcelain pale under the dim glow of the oil street lamps. I look entirely displaced, fragile, and utterly terrified. To the arrogant men of the land, I am a creature begging to be saved. I follow the heavy, intoxicating stench of roasted meat, stale tobacco, and spilled rum. It leads me to a building near the edge of the docks, its wooden sign swinging lazily in the wind. From within, a cacophony of slurred laughter, stomping boots, and off-key singing bleeds through the cracks in the walls. It is a tavern, a feeding trough for the exhausted men who spend their days dragging nets through my domain. I do not go inside. The light is too bright, the crowd too chaotic. A predator does not walk into the middle of a herd. She waits at the fringes for a straggler to wander off into the dark. I crouch in the damp shadows between a stack of rotting wooden crates and a rusted anchor, pulling the frayed woolen shawl tighter around my shivering shoulders. I pull my knees to my chest, making myself look as small and pitiable as possible. Then I wait. My hearing, evolved to track the faintest heartbeat of a floundering fish miles away, isolates the sounds within the tavern. I filter out the booming voices of the large, muscular men. I do not want an old captain with tough, gristly flesh and a suspicious mind. I do not want a loud, aggressive brawler who might draw the attention of others. Wolves do not hunt the strongest of the flock. They look for the isolated, the curious, the weak-willed. After an hour, the heavy oak door of the tavern creaks open, spilling a rectangle of warm, amber light into the foggy alley. A figure stumbles out. It is a young sailor, barely out of his boyhood. He leans heavily against the doorframe, letting out a long, foggy breath into the chill air. He has a scruffy chin, flushed cheeks from the cheap spiced liquor, and a heavy wool coat draped loosely over his shoulders. He fumbles in his pockets, pulling out a small wooden pipe, trying to strike a match with clumsy, uncoordinated fingers. He is alone. He is intoxicated. And beneath the smell of the rum, I can smell the distinct, sweet scent of loneliness radiating off his skin. He is perfect. I initiate the trap. I do not call out to him. Instead, I let out a sharp, ragged gasp, just loud enough to cut through the quiet lapping of the harbor waves. The match in the sailor's hand snaps. He jerks his head toward the shadowy alcove where I am hiding, his bleary eyes trying to pierce the gloom. "Who's there?" he slurs, his voice thick and rough. He takes a hesitant step forward, leaving the safety of the tavern's light. "Hello?" I press myself further into the corner, letting the shawl slip just enough to reveal the pale, shivering curve of my shoulder. I wide my eyes, filling them with unshed tears, and look up at him like a trapped rabbit staring at a hound. I let out a soft, pathetic whimper, wrapping my arms around myself as if trying to hold my broken body together. He steps closer, squinting. When his eyes finally adjust to the dark and trace the outline of my face, I hear the sudden, sharp hitch in his breathing. The heavy, rhythmic thud of his heart accelerates. Thump, thump. Thump, thump. It is a beautiful sound. "Gods above," he whispers, the pipe slipping from his fingers to clatter on the cobblestones. He rushes to my side, dropping to his knees. The heat radiating from his body is incredible. It makes the saliva pool beneath my tongue. "Miss, are you all right?" he asks, his hands hovering nervously over me, unsure if he should touch me. "You're freezing. Where did you come from? Did you fall off a ship?" I do not answer. To speak their guttural, clumsy language would break the illusion. I just stare into his eyes, my lips trembling. I let out a small, terrified sob and shrink away from him. Hey, it's okay," he coos, his voice softening, his chest puffing out with an instinctual surge of protective heroism. "I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe now. Let me help you." He reaches out, his warm, calloused fingers gently brushing against my icy cheek. The contrast is electric. The urge to unhinge my jaw and snap his wrist right then and there is nearly overwhelming. The hunger claws at my insides, but I force it down. Not here. Not in the alley. I need him isolated. I need him in the dark. It is time to sing. I open my lips, parting them just enough to let a breath slip through. I do not sing with words. Words belong to the land. I sing with a frequency older than humanity itself. It is a soft, melodic hum that vibrates in the back of my throat. A lullaby woven from the drowning gasps of 1,000 sailors and the hypnotic sway of the deep ocean currents. The sound is barely a whisper, yet it does not travel through the air. It travels straight into his mind. The effect is instantaneous. The sailor freezes. The concern and confusion in his eyes vanish, instantly replaced by a glassy, vacant stare. The melody slithers into his ear canal, bypassing his logic, dissolving his inhibitions, and striking directly at the primitive core of his brain. My song shows him exactly what he wants to see. It whispers promises of unconditional love, of fiery passion, of a beauty so divine it makes the rest of the world look like a rotting corpse. You're so beautiful," he breathes, his pupils dilating until his eyes are almost entirely black. The tension in his shoulders completely melts away. He is no longer a man. He is a puppet strung up by my vocal cords. I slowly rise to my feet. I am still unsteady, my new legs wobbling, but I reach out and take his large, warm hand in my cold one. His pulse is racing beneath my fingertips, hammering a frantic rhythm against his wrist. I offer him a smile, not the terrified, shy smile from before, but a slow, alluring curve of the lips that promises him the world. I step backward, out of the alley, moving away from the warmth of the tavern and the safety of the town. I give a gentle tug on his hand. He does not resist. He cannot resist. The siren's song has tethered his soul to mine. With a dopey, spellbound smile plastered across his face, the young sailor follows me into the dense, suffocating fog, marching willingly toward the jagged, desolate cliffs where the sea roars below. The table is set. The prey is walking to his own slaughter. The walk to the edge of the world is agonizingly slow. Every step I take on these fleshy, unstable columns of bone sends a jarring ache up my spine. My bare feet bleed against the sharp gravel and broken seashells that litter the path leading away from the harbor. But the pain is a dull hum compared to the roaring inferno of my hunger. I lead him away from the cobblestone streets, away from the flickering amber halos of the oil lamps, and deep into the dense, suffocating fog that blankets the coastal cliffs. The sounds of the tavern, the boisterous laughter, the clinking of tankards, the stomping of heavy boots, fade into nothingness, swallowed entirely by the hungry, deafening roar of the ocean crashing against the jagged rocks below. This is my domain. Out here, in the isolated dark, where the salt spray coats the air and the wind howls like a dying beast, no one will hear a thing. The young sailor follows me with the blind devotion of a dog on a leash. My hand is still wrapped around his, my fingers tracing the frantic, pulsing vein at his wrist. His skin is practically radiating heat. To him, the chilling fog is likely a romantic shroud, isolating us in a private world. He is completely lost in the hypnotic frequency of my hum, a soundless melody vibrating in his skull, painting me as a fragile angel desperately in need of his warmth. We reach the precipice. The ground drops off into a sheer, rocky cliff face, plummeting into the violent, churning black water of the abyss. The sea spray kisses my face, a familiar, comforting greeting from my motherland. I stop, turning my back to the drop. I let the melody in my throat slowly fade, tapering off into the natural rhythm of the wind. The sudden absence of the siren's song acts like a bucket of cold water. The sailor blinks, shaking his head slightly as if waking from a deep, dreamless sleep. The glassy, vacant stare in his eyes begins to clear, replaced by a hazy confusion. He looks around, shivering as the biting coastal wind cuts through his wool coat. He realizes, finally, how far we have wandered into the dark. Where are we? He murmurs, his voice thick and disoriented. He looks back at me, the confusion instantly melting back into a soft, foolish affection. The spell may be broken, but the illusion of my beauty remains. "You're freezing," he whispers, stepping dangerously close. He reaches out, wrapping his large, calloused hands around my waist. The contrast is staggering. He is a furnace of hot, pumping human blood. I am the temperature of a drowned corpse. He shivers as his palms press against the icy dampness of my stolen shirt. But his lust and hero complex override his instincts. He leans in, his warm breath ghosting across my collarbone, smelling of cheap rum and sweet tobacco. He thinks this is passion. He thinks my trembling is born of desire, of vulnerability. He leans his face toward mine, his eyes fluttering shut, aiming for a kiss that he believes will cement this beautiful, tragic romance. It is time to drop the curtain. I do not close my eyes. Instead, I open them wide. As his lips are mere inches from mine, I force the muscles in my face to relax. The delicate, shy facade I have maintained for the past hour simply melts away, leaving a dead, expressionless mask of absolute apathy. I blink. When my eyelids snap open, the soft, dough-like innocence is gone. The round human pupils constrict violently, snapping into thin, vertical black slits. A reflective, predatory luminescence floods my irises, glowing with the pale, cold light of the deep-sea trenches. He opens his eyes, expecting the warm gaze of a lover. Instead, he finds himself staring into the soulless, reptilian voids of an apex predator. The romantic haze in his brain shatters. He freezes, his body going completely rigid. The realization does not hit him all at once. It is a slow, creeping horror. His eyes dart over my face, noticing the unnatural stillness of my features, the bioluminescent glow reflecting in the dark, the way my skin seems to possess a rubbery, unnatural sheen. What are you? He breathes, the words trembling on his lips. He tries to pull his hands away from my waist. I don't let him. My hands, which had been resting gently on his chest, clamp down on the lapels of his coat with the crushing force of a vice. He gasps, finally feeling the terrifying, inhuman strength hidden beneath my fragile appearance. He tries to scream, to shove me away, but he is far too late. With a sickening, wet pop, the joints in my jaw unhinge. The lower half of my face drops unnaturally low, tearing the delicate human illusion wide open. The single row of pearly, flat teeth retracts, and from the deep, fleshy pockets of my gums, 3 rows of jagged, serrated shark fangs snap forward, gleaming like jagged glass in the moonlight. His scream finally tears through his throat, a high, piercing sound of absolute, primal terror. It is the sound of a prey animal realizing it has willingly walked into the jaws of the beast. But I am faster. As I lunge forward, the soft, manicured skin covering my fingers splits open. 10 razor-sharp, hooked talons burst through the flesh, dripping with my own dark blood. I plunge my claws deep into his chest, tearing effortlessly through his heavy wool coat, his shirt, and the fragile cage of his ribs. He chokes, his scream drowning in a geyser of warm, crimson liquid. My unhinged jaws snap shut over the side of his neck. The serrated teeth shear through muscle, tendon, and the thick, pulsating artery with terrifying ease. Hot, metallic, glorious blood floods my mouth, washing over my tongue and pouring down my throat in a scalding rush. The taste is intoxicating. It is life. It is fire. It is everything the cold, barren ocean is not. He thrashes wildly, his fists weakly beating against my back. But to me, his struggles are nothing more than the pathetic twitching of a dying fish. I lock my jaws tighter, shaking my head violently to the side like a great white tearing a seal apart. Flesh rips. Bone crunches. His knees buckle. I let him fall, riding his collapsing weight down to the hard, rocky ground. He lies on his back, his eyes wide, staring up at the starless sky as life rapidly drains from his twitching body. He is gasping, trying to draw air into lungs that are rapidly filling with his own blood. I crawl over his chest, pinning him down. I do not bother hiding my true nature anymore. I let out a low, guttural, ultrasonic hiss that vibrates the pebbles around us. I plunge my face back into the ruin I have made of his throat, tearing away chunks of warm meat, feeding the ravenous, bottomless void in my stomach. The sea wind howls around us, acting as my orchestra. The blood soaks the stolen clothes, turning the white linen a brilliant, beautiful crimson. The fairy tales were wrong. There is no romance to be found on the land. There is only the hunt. And tonight, I am feasting like a queen.